There are many different types of challenges to overcome and things you need to consider before deciding to build a new home. Today, we're going to talk through some of these. Join us. Welcome back, Nelson.
Yeah,
It's
no.
been a while.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I've been gone for a while. I got kind of sick with the weather. It was one thing and then it led to another. My immune system is very low. So yeah, I was out and I'm still feeling kind of iffy, recuperating. So we'll see. But everything, I feel better enough to be on the camera. I don't look like I'm just saying shit.
Hey, that's a good thing. And we're glad to have you back. I think a bunch of people were like, they ran off that he just never came back or anything.
He shaved his beard, got a mustache, and we kicked him off.
Because we were in a meeting trying to figure out when the last time you recorded was, and it's been like almost
It's
a
been a
month,
month.
I think.
Yeah, been a month. Yeah, and that's
Mhm.
exactly when I shaved my beard at the mustache from Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Yeah,
That's right. See,
yeah.
maybe it's the
It's much.
gun fever that got you sick. Maybe if you let it all grow back or get rid of the mustache or something, you'll be 100%. Who knows?
It's crazy. Yeah. Just shaving like the stubble, I can feel the temperature difference on my face. And the day I took off the entire beard, it was so cold because I hadn't shaved in maybe since I met Mariah, 5 years. Yeah. That beard had been around for 5 years. So, yeah.
So, wow. So she's having to get to know a whole different you and
Right. And the next is going to
waking.
be shaving off the head. And she's fine. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
keep those long locks
Yeah. I'll keep
rocking
that.
there.
Yeah, I will. How you been doing? How's everything going at home? How's the Casey?
Every Lucchese is well. She is, run out of friends to play with, and she gets very sad. We almost got another white lab and decided not to, and
Yeah.
she's really funny because when she sees her friends that she used to play with and they don't play anymore, she will stand at the window or something when they walk by, and then afterwards, she lays down, puts her head down, and tears come out of both of her eyes.
Oh,
It is so sad, and it is so and, in my instant response, if I'm not on a call or doing something, is to definitely play with her.
yeah.
But at the same time, I've never seen a dog ever get
Sad.
so
Mm.
sensitive when other dogs walk by that they used to play with, and,
Yeah.
it's rough,
That's
and,
yeah.
it's not that she doesn't get to it's not that I don't play with her, I do, but
Mhm.
it's
It's
not
different when they play with their own kind and going around and having fun. I mean, yeah, it's different.
yeah, so I think she needs a little partner in crime, and, I'm regretting my decision, but we'll see.
There's always more litters, I'm sure, right? They always come out.
Yeah, that's true, but this was just a perfect little adorable little boy, I'm not a big fan about little boy puppies. I always like the little girl ones better, but hey.
Yeah. Was it from the same
Mother and same
Oh,
father.
wow, okay, yeah, nice.
So, yeah, it was gonna be a perfect, and it was like, but I didn't do it, and I think I'm regretting it.
There'll be more opportunities.
Yeah, I know, but it was like the perfect time I could have just
Mhm.
gone
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's a trip to Oklahoma, but, oh, well.
Wow, that's a far drive. Yeah, no, it's good. Wait another
Starting out
year.
Yeah, because it's been a year since, last Monday was a year that I've had her.
But as we
Believe
know, like, a lot can happen in time span of the year, right? Like, look what's going on right now. Things
builders and building has still been very popular with, a lot of our audience. So it's been interesting to, talk more about, um, doing a new builds. And I did that with Carrie last week. And it's nice to start the week off talking about new construction again, especially since you do so much new
yeah.
construction.
The construction is fun. There's a lot of things we need to keep an eye out. There's a lot of stuff we need to see that can happen, like for future preferences. Also, there's so much and so much fun to see it grow. Like it's like a child having or a puppy, for example. It's fun to see it adapt or change into what it's going to become. And it's always fun to see the process too of a new build where you're going to spend the rest of your life, or if not, maybe a few years to see it go from up to bottom. So it's it's a big process. It's fun, but getting yourself an agent from Uncommon that will walk you through it step by step to make sure we're going to give you what you're looking for is always the ideal thing to do. Because I love seeing it and I love going, once a week or twice a week for my clients to go check out their property if they can, right? Just to be able to do some recon for them, say, hey, this is not the type of backsplash that they ordered. it's better to stop that at the moment rather than waiting a week and then telling them it's the wrong one. Because chances are some builders aren't going to replace it. They're just going to leave it alone and, call it a day.
Absolutely, because really deciding for any consumer that they wanna jump into the to build a house and do the new construction poses a lot of challenges for them to overcome, and it's like, where do they start? Where what kind of builder do I need? And it really starts even before you can you have to start doing your research on the type of builder that you want, but it really does come into play, what you were just talking about is really what kind of agent do you also need? Because not all agents do things the same. And you and I do new construction completely different than 98% of the other agents across the country because I've taught new construction
Mhm.
nationwide.
Yeah.
But you and I take a more hands-on approach. It's not like we go to a contract signing for new construction or we just so with new construction, if you're using an agent, just for those of you who don't know, you need to take your agent with you when you're ever popping by a builder's office, even if you're just wanting information. You need to go with your agent because you can find yourself in a situation where I got a call last week actually from an agent whose client went out and then she called and said, "We're interested in doing a contract." And the guy said, "Nope, that's my client. That is not yours. I work for the builder and you're an agent and I'm not working with you."
Mhm.
They still are doing that.
Yep.
But
It's the moment you walk in.
yeah, so that client of hers actually walked away from that builder. But not everybody, sometimes it's the perfect house, but you need to take the realtor with you. But knowing that and understanding that, there's a lot that you have to consider when you're looking for a builder. And there's tons of different types of builders and locations, right?
Definitely. And there's always considerations of what you plan to do, with that time span. Are you planning to be there for your 30 years, 15 years? Do you want to be there 2 years, sell up and move to another community, right? There's a lot of things that you need to consider. How's your life once you're settled at home? Are you a busybody or are you a home bee? Like, do you want to stay at home or what's the plan? Like, you want to take all of those things into consideration. A lot of things that I also like is like, okay, so I like my nightlife. I let you go out, but I also want to be close to family. I don't want to be more than 15, 20 minutes away because that's something that can impact, future down the line. If I have kids or if I have a dog and I need a babysitter or a dog sitter, it's potentially a lot easier for me to do that than pay a dog sitter $500 a day to watch my dog. Right. So taking advantage of the family, but it's always worth it. But same time, there's a lot of other things to consider too, right? What's the water like? What electricity companies? What are your internets, providers? Things like that that you need to be looking around. Your IST. Are you up in North Round Rock, but it's still Austin IST, or are you in Austin and it might be another IST? So there's a lot of things that you need to consider and look into very thoroughly. It can all affect your decisions.
Yeah, because there's a lot of consumers or homeowners that are moving out of the Austin Independent School District,
Mhm.
and there's a lot that are going to Dripping Springs, and one of the things that a lot of people need to realize is that researching the schools in different areas is essential to making that decision if you either have or plan to have kids in the next 1 to 2 years. I mean, schools can change, either ratings all change as well, but also, do you wanna be in that new home community or do you wanna be in an existing community that's almost built out as far as the number of phases that they're gonna do?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause usually in those kind of communities too, I like calling them more of like the bigger, close to developer kind of style where they have their own school coming in too. And that school, it takes a while to build. And they also need, 3 or 4 years for that school to be up and running once it's fully constructed. But if you have a kid already at the age that's ready for elementary school, how old will your child be when the school is finished? Will it be in fourth grade, fifth grade? What's the school? So there's a lot of things you need to consider when looking into new builds. And one thing that I like bringing up, and it's quite often, is with all the builders that go around nationwide, each builder has their own community where they're building. And sometimes in a city, there can be 3 or 4 communities that they're building at a time. But I love dishing out. I don't know if you've noticed this, Robbie, but how one community and another community that's 15, 20 miles away have two different, same homes that are being sold, but every type of construction is very different, even if it's the same builder. Have you ever run into something like that where you see a one-story, three-bedroom, two-bath being constructed in, let's just say Cedar Park, when you go into Austin and it's a different style of builds? Have you noticed that, like, construction? Oh,
Different builders do different things, absolutely. I've seen some larger builders like MI or Bella Vista that will build the same home with a little bit of deviation, all from San Antonio all the way into Austin.
mhm.
And then I see some that are, 5, 10, 15. There's the same builders that built the same, well, Horton came in and built city side in Round Rock condos. They took and built those same condos in Austin, in South Austin, changed them a little bit and charged 3 times the amount.
Yeah, that's
So you see deviation from it.
yeah.
And, you and I were talking earlier about some complete changes, even with some of the complete styles that you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day where you can go from one community to another and completely see the difference in builds, like from foundation all the way up to, the attic. There can be a little bit deviation, like you were saying. Also, it depends on the county too. How strict are their inspections and their inspectors? Because they can be, in Austin, where I hate saying it, but it can, they turn the other cheek, or if it looks reasonably okay, it might be okay, right? But there'll be some places in Williamson County where they can be very strict. And, if one screw is loose, no, that's not going to pass that inspection for it. Granted, I'm not an inspector. I can't say this is 100% validity, but I know that they're a lot stricter in certain areas than in other areas. And
Oh,
that
come
was,
on, Nelson. You and I have both been on construction sites for new communities, and you dang well know that that superintendent has not been in that house in 2
oh,
weeks.
definitely. No, I've seen them when they just sit, they call it a day when they just drive around from their home to the next home and they don't even exit. Because that's why you need an agent like us who are going to go there on a weekly basis and actually walk your home, because these superintendents they might have paperwork in their car, but if they need to get out and walk the property, they'll walk it and make sure everything looks okay. It's reasonably safe. But what does the order say? What does the contract say? Does it say that the backsplash needs to be put in a specific type of order, right? Do they know that? Probably not. They don't have it with them, so they don't care. But we have those orders, and those contracts with us, and we know what you ordered. So we want to make sure it's getting done. You don't want to walk into a house if you've been gone on vacation for a month, let's say, and the house has been painted light blue when you wanted the exterior to be white and black, right? A superintendent may or may not pay attention to that, but we will definitely be paying attention.
Yeah, so literally in your last 2 builds, let's just go 2. Let's not go and overwhelm anybody on this. Out of your last 2, how many mistakes would you say that you caught
Let me see.
before anybody else?
Counting wise, it's more than two hands. I want to say there's probably, sheesh, 22, 23 mistakes. And that's
23
probably
mistakes out of the last
both,
2.
both of them. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you say 23, that's 23 times that you fought for your client without your client even really having to get involved
Yeah.
because you were
Exactly.
on it. And I'm sure you kept them up to date and you kept them in the loop,
Mhm.
but you were there with a solution. And it gets very frustrating because I know in the past, with the houses that my clients have built, we found different staircases being installed than should have been installed, going the wrong direction, the wrong shower, whether it's a roll in or a step up, just completely different things. And it matters when you catch it because everything causes a delay.
Yeah. It's
And
always,
especially if you don't catch it for a month.
yeah. I know. And those, like I was saying earlier, if they go on after a while, chances are the builder is going to say, hey, they're going to just clean their hands. It's too late. It's set in stone. But if you can stop them at a certain point, and if you as a consumer, if you talk to the representative of the builder, yeah, they can, they're always going to be nice, right? And they have to because you're a client. With another fellow agent that they can talk to, there's no filter between us. And we can just say it as it is, and they're going to get it done because you guys are paying good money for something that you're investing in. And if it on the point where it's grinding your gears, you might let something slip, a word or anything that you don't want to say. And, builder, I hate saying it, but builder has all the trump cards, right? It powers in their hands. So you
It
can say
does.
something and they can rip that contract up for any reason.
Yeah, and we've talked about how on this show, how we've seen people in the past, builders, where they have canceled out of convenience, and most of the builders' contracts have a convenience cancellation where they can just walk away and give you your money back as a consumer. But really having the ability to have an agent that really will fight for you, because what you don't wanna do as the consumer is get crossways with the builder. And an agent who's done this before and knows what they're doing has the right way to couch things so it's not an attack where as a individual consumer, you've not dealt with it on the daily, and it can come across pretty hard.
Definitely. It's something that you always want to take into consideration. Like who can negotiate on your behalf, getting what needs to be done. I One thing that it's really difficult are the little things to keep an eye on, right? Sometimes it's minimal, small. Let's just say, for example, a 2 inch trim compared to 3 inch, right? Or finding a 4 inch. That's something you're going to overlook every time you walk into the house because it's just something that you're not looking. You're looking for your cabinets, the countertops, and you're being distracted by the light fixtures and things like that. But being able to look at everything from bottom to top is a huge, huge deal. And being able to know that you ordered 4 inch trim rather than 2 inch trim is a huge thing because when you walk in there, the trim's done throughout the house. It might be a little bit harder for them to rip that out and redo it when it's at the final stages of the new build. So it's better to have someone that's going there constantly. You can do it for your benefit, right? Without you having to get a little aggravated with the representative.
Yeah, because 'cause I've seen skylights when we used to do a lot of skylights put in the wrong direction, in the right location, but done in the wrong orientation.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about the Cat 5 wiring and different things and the box. What's that box called?
The Onicle box or the
Audit
recess box.
audit box? Yeah, the Onicle box that, that box with all the wires is what I call it. Being in the wrong location or why you actually wanna put it in a certain location.
Yeah.
And, people we get pulled in so many different directions. And really, in this world, we can't be a master of everything because it doesn't work that way. We found that we've made a whole lot of mistakes. And I know even on the first two builds that I helped clients with, oh, I don't even know how many years ago that was. It was a long, long time ago. I learned from those. And so you kind of get and you see how things are going. And, even having that historical viewpoint of being out there and seeing how the build is going and where it is. And, even for your clients to have some kind of photo documentation for the location of those pipes and stuff. And, oh, is this a load bearing wall? Well,
Yeah.
you can either dig into it or you can know up front,
Yeah.
right?
Get those pictures done early during the bone phase to find out what there's a fire block there. If it's a load bearing wall, like you said, it's always good to have someone be on there at least once a week or twice a week to the site. And it's like we were saying earlier about the construction, same company from one side to the other side. There's a lot of different aspects to be looking. How's the construction done? How is the crew treated? Are they there after hours? Are they there on weekends? There's stuff that you might want to go around and looking at builders because that consideration is going to reflect the build once it's complete. Are you going to have a lot of problems at the house once it's done, right? Just minimal repairs that need to be done or calling the warranty. It's stuff you want to make sure. And it's better to find a community where you don't have to deal with that crap later. Better to just do the research and do it thoroughly in the beginning to find where you're trying to go.
So if we were a individual consumer and we've talked to an agent and, they want us to really throw because an agent can't steer you to a certain location or anything or builder, let's say, hey, what are some of the considerations that I, as a consumer, may need to take into account really when it comes to even telling our agent, I want to go this direction or this type of builder and stuff because, agents aren't, they can't read your mind.
Mhm.
So I think one of those is, do you want to be in a new neighborhood or one that's established? Do you, Is it country or do you want to be, closer in?
Yeah.
But we've talked about schools. What other things can you think
Um,
of?
a good consideration that I always like saying is also technology advances quite frequently, very fast. And one thing that I also really think is a huge consideration is where is it? What's the soil like? What's the foundation going to be like? Because that is the bones of your entire house. It cannot stand on a foundation that's going to be settling or sinking in a couple years. And one thing that I do know is, yeah, there's nothing wrong with building on clay because technology has changed where the style of foundation can be a little bit stronger, better than it used to be, right? But also, how do the engineers work? Are they a Texas company or are they nationwide? Do they know what the dirt and the soil is like east of I-35, where it's majority clay? Do they know how to build on that? Is it compacted? Is it just pressure? Do they have the correct support? These are things that you want to consider too, because a house that stands on rock is going to stand, whereas a house that sits on mud is going to sink. So
Right.
it's good to know that kind of stuff ahead of time before making those conclusions. Because do you want to be having foundation repairs in the first 3, 5 years of the life of the home? No, it's a pain in the ass.
Absolutely. You
Huge.
went totally somewhere else with that than I thought you were because you started out talking about technology and technology changed. And I was like, okay, he's going right into technology that's available at the property. And I was like, oh, well,
The
and
curveball.
even with Starlink, we can get great internet anywhere now, which is really kind of an amazing thing. So you're people who work from home, which so many people are, don't have some of those restrictions that they've had in the past.
Yeah.
And they're able to even do a custom home or some kind of build on your own lot out in the country.
Yeah. Another consideration too with the technology, I'm sorry I threw you on that curveball, but it's just technology and how the, foundations have been around, back who knows when. I wasn't even probably born. They were doing, in California, they do a pier and beam. So a lot of that has to do with earthquakes, right? So, but I'm sure their pier and beam now has gotten a lot with technology advancing a lot safer when it comes to an earthquake, right? So I think that's where I was going with the technology, but I did throw you into curveball.
Yeah, you did, and, you certainly did, and one of the other things that I was thinking about that really is a huge consideration is the time. How long do you have? Because if you have to be in San Antonio, Texas, or Austin, Texas, or wherever you're moving to, and Dallas for that matter, and you don't have time to wait out the build,
Mhm.
then that may be a consideration for you because you're going to have to allow the builder to take time. And I've seen everything from 90-day home builds to, the typical 9 months to, a year going on. And as we still are dealing with supply chain issues, there's an unlimited number of issues that are out there that you're going to potentially face.
Yeah, there's
And what does the builder have in their hip pocket, because a lot of builders order, a lot of the stuff they're going to use in the build in bulk.
yeah.
So that gives them more purchasing power so they get more attention. But if you don't admire or like, or your realtor doesn't admire or like some of those builders out there, there's probably a reason why.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, time is a huge, huge thing because like you were just saying, imagine if you're leasing an apartment or another home, right? You want to know the time span of that because do you want to break the lease and have to fork up another $9,000 just to break the lease because your home got built, a few months before the deadline, or is it on time, right? And do you have to extend that lease month by month, right? Now they're gonna murder you with month to month leases, right? There goes your price. So there's a lot of factors to consider just in time by itself because what's the timing of the school? I have a kid, right? And the kid's going to start second grade next year. What's the timing issue like? Do I want to be moving while he's starting school? Right? Do I have to change the schools? How do I get the child into that ISD if we're moving to a completely different ISD? All those things have to consideration with time.
And money, because literally, Austin is still leading the nation on the rental costs. And it is still number one is Austin, number two is Nashville out of the top five. And I know those because I've lived in both
Yeah.
places. But at the same time, if you've been leasing while you've been waiting on a new build to finish, and you've got the fact that rents rates are just going out the roof, that's also a financial implication that,
Yeah.
you have to take into consideration.
Yeah. Imagine your renewal being another $600 a month just to stay there for the year. But then if you tell them you want to do month to month for a few extra months, what do you think that price is going to be at? Right? It's just going to be even higher. There's a lot to consider, especially moving in. And when it comes to time, how long does it take for you to get into, let's just say, for example, if there's design options, are you picking out these design options? When do they do it? Do they do it early in the build or do they do it later in the build? That's a good time factor to consider too, because if it's later in the builds, are they going to allow you to do different trend changes like we were thinking about? Or is it something they're going to do in the beginning
Ooh,
and you're
trend
set on for the
tactics.
whole day?
Yeah, because a lot of builders don't have a whole lot of warehouse space to hold. So when they take delivery, they only want those appliances to come in and just sit there on the lot.
Yep.
They want to make sure that they've got a place to put them. So it does become a little bit of a logistics nightmare for a
Yeah.
lot of them, having those appliances show up when they're ready. So they're not stolen out of the home during
Yeah.
the construction phase,
Yep.
because a theft of construction sites is a
It's
big
high.
issue.
Yeah. Copper is a number one thing that gets sold from construction sites because it's something they can reuse or resell. So that's one thing that's always gone.
Yeah, because I've been out with clients looking at new construction on a Sunday and seeing somebody loading up a dishwasher and a refrigerator in the back of a pickup and going, you probably need to get out of here." But seriously,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we have to consider. Even, you were talking about nightlife and, your lifestyle. That is a huge consideration. I always tell my clients when we go and we decide on an area of town, go to the grocery store,
Yeah.
buy some groceries. It may be an hour away from where you're currently living, or you may be in town for the weekend. Doesn't mean you have to go in and buy all the chicken and meat that you can have for a week, but go in and experience who's there in that area.
Yeah. Familiarize yourself with the locale because I can tell you one thing when we were at Circle C going to the escarpment HEB, it was a brand new HEB. It was nice. I've memorized the layout, very just methodical and everything. But then when we moved to the new location on the east side and I had to change the entire HEB, I was at a loss because now I'm like, wait, I memorized all this shit and I don't even know where this next thing, where's the pasta? I can't find it. So it's very important to go check out the place where you shop. My other thing is like, where's the Costco? Where's the closest Costco? I'm all about Costco. So that is massive.
Yeah, and I am too, because I wanna be fairly close to a Costco and a Sam's, but I wanna make sure it's a Costco that has gas,
Yeah, exactly. That is huge because gas is
because not all of them do, which is frustrating.
yes. And another consideration is also, lifestyle this plays into is also your work. Are you commuting to work or are you working from home? And those two have another considerations. If you are working from home, what is the internet provider like? Do you have Spectrum? Do you have Sunlink? Do you have AT&T? Do you have Google Fiber options, right? What are these options? Because if you're going to be working from home, you're going to want to have good speeds, right? Or if you're going to commute to work, you want to be within, 15 to 20 minutes with traffic, right? You don't want to drive an hour and a half with traffic. But if you're willing to make the sacrifice, that's something you have to do, right? But those are considerations.
Yeah, because you were saying a couple of months ago something about the build out even on Google, for their fiber, even in San Antonio, how they're
Mhm.
doing it with rings and how, th maybe actually doing a little bit better than they did it in Austin.
Yeah.
And because I know, neighborhood by neighborhood, you could be across the street from one neighborhood and not have Google Fiber.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
that's one of the things that frustrates me is I've always somehow moved into an area that didn't have Google Fiber. And I need to think about that more upfront,
Yeah, Google
but it is
Fiber, it's important, very important to have that. I mean, you can be paying $70 a month for Spectrum on one of the packages and not receive nearly as much of the speeds as Google Fiber, but be in a location where Google Fiber is available is very hard to find here in Austin because they have stopped here in Austin. They're not making any more neighborhoods or zip codes with Google Fiber. But if
yeah.
you get your place yourself in San Antonio where they're expanding quite fast, in phases, it is good to be able to find whether a new community or even an older community, a resale that has fiber established.
There's a lot. I mean, we've talked about the schools, but it's really I think there's a big requirement of where do you see, granted, you never know everything, but where do you see yourself in 5 to 7 years? Because if
Exactly.
you're buying in a neighborhood in the first phase and we don't have the community pool built or any of the amenities built, that first summer it gets very frustrating because there's no pool. You have to go somewhere else if they
Right.
don't allow individual pools in at the or you're not building a pool.
Yeah.
But also, if you have to move, is it better to sell before the neighborhood is built out, or which it's not, and you're competing with a builder? And, very rarely do you get a positive situation. We
Yeah.
sold one in Dripping Springs, which we were going up against the builder for even new builds, and we came out ahead.
Yeah, that is a huge consideration at that point because timing is huge. It's practically, do you plan on being there 15 years? That's not going to be a timing issue against the builder, right? The development company. But if you're going to plan on being there 2 to 3 years, how many homes do they plan on building the entire time that they're there? Is it going to be a 6 year project? What's up? Because if you get there at the beginning or the second year and you want to sell in 2 years, but you're still competing against the builder if they're going to be there for 5 years. Why would someone want to buy your house that has been lived in? It's not new. It doesn't have all the sparkly gadgets and things like that. When I can just buy a new build from scratch from the builder that offers the same warranty, it's newer stuff and it hasn't been lived in. It's my own, right? So that is very difficult to compete unless, you've done some updates by yourself, construction had some fun. Maybe you have a chance to compete against them, but it's very difficult at that point because, like myself, why do I want to share my butt with a toilet seat someone else has used? No, I want
Absolutely. What glam have you added to the home? What makes it pop as compared to what you're gonna get out of the builder with a brand new home?
definitely. It's a big, big thing. It's a lot of things to keep your head in mind, and it can be overwhelming, right? It's better to go in little sections at a time. Do your research online. It's a big thing to do your research online because
Reviews.
reviews don't lie. If people tell you the truth there, you can make your own judgment based off, previous reviews from other consumers. And then also talk to your agent because I'm sure they have dealt with these type of builders before. It's not the first one. They drive around, they see all the type of builders. And one thing that always comes to my mind, I'm not going to drop a name, but it was a builder and it was during the bone phase where they're constructing, doing the framing and they didn't want to pay, I guess, for another stud or a 2x4. And what it was an 8 foot piece cut, and they just attached another 4 feet plus a piece of 2x4, and they wrapped it with an iron mesh and hammered it, and that's what was supporting, I guess, a joist, which is a lot of weight. So to me, I when I see that, I kind of stay away from that community because majority of the houses might be built along the same lines, and that's a big boo boo. Because imagine if something comes down some high winds, a tornado, what could happen, right? That's a stud could be supporting something, something would fall. So we see these things on a daily basis and just take our word for it when we say that might not be a good thing to go see, but let's go check it out so we can see what it's like now, right?
Yeah, because that would be something that a superintendent would catch and say, "Hey, this is not," and they would tell the subs to actually jump in and fix this.
Mm.
But a lot of them don't even go in the house, much less look with some great detail.
Oh, no.
And that's a huge challenge in, you kind of want to pick out, your tile, your carpet, if you're getting carpet, your paint colors and, the cabinetry and everything, the wall texture, everything that you're gonna pick out, and then you set it and forget it. It's
Mhm.
kinda like you go to a restaurant, you sit there and you order a meal and you'd worry about, are they
Yeah.
cooking my food right and everything like that. But with a house, it matters because you can't see in the walls after it's already, the
Yep.
sheetrock's gone up.
Yep. Yeah. That's a huge thing. Big, scary, what if you don't want to be drilling through your drywall, right, to hang up your TV and there happens to be a stud there, but they forgot to put the nail plates on, right? And there happens to be some Romex cabling right behind that. You didn't turn the power off. Someone's gonna get shocked, right? It's not gonna feel good. It's gonna hurt. So
Right.
those are things to take into consideration. There's a lot of the little things that can affect something potentially larger in the future. And it's always good to just get feedback from people who have dealt with these builders and also an agent who has familiarized themselves with all the types of different production builders that there are in Austin or San Antonio and every city in between, right? I've always I've admired seeing these production builders just because I love them. And one of the builds that I've always loved production wise is always going to someone like, I guess you can say Braun is a builder that I like enjoying working with. And that's always a good one. Toll Brothers was another. Do you have any favorite production builders that you have come across, Robbie, that you've dealt with?
Pulte, I used to enjoy a Pulte. I like some David Weekley
Mhm.
builds are decent. Not that they're crap. Trying to think of the one that I just absolutely love, and I cannot think of it's in my head. It's 2 words, and I cannot think of it. And, we've highlighted a lot of those on the, Uncommon Homes, channel, and really done a lot of videos on a lot of those homes, and, Pulte's been really good as well.
Mhm.
But, it's there's so many out there. I'm very vocal about the ones that I don't like. It does jump in, there's a lot that I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the KB Homes.
Yeah.
And
And
I traditionally, over the last several 5, 7, 8 years, have not been a fan of the builder that's building out in that neighborhood that you really like off 130. I I've seen their stuff and watched their builds, and I did not like them.
no.
Pacesetter's not a fan I'm not a fan of Pacesetter.
Yeah. Paste, their community right now, that one you're referring to. Yeah. It's
I forgot what it's called off the top of my head. It's been
Whispering
around for a
Valley.
while. Whisper Va
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
and
one, and I know the builder I'm looking forward to that is going in that same community, they're not there yet. They won't be there until November of this year, and that's the one I'm like, I think it's Castle Rock is the community that would.
Castle Rock,
Yeah,
yeah.
so those are the kind of builders that they pay attention to detail. They don't just stop there, but they also pay attention to the consumer that they're helping, because this is a huge investment, right? Whether it's for you to live in or not, it's still an investment because it's a lot of your money that you're putting into, and you're going to be there and you want to get something out of it, whether it's leaving it to your children or selling it for retirement, right? A lot that goes into it. But I know some builders always have a bad rap, and it's hard to, I guess, work your way back up to what it used to be, right? It's difficult. And I remember during 2000, the recession in 2008, a lot of builders went out of business.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
those businesses were bought, those builders were bought by other these big builders. And a lot of their, I guess you can say, their customer service went down the drain when they merged with these other companies, because one company might have been a great customer service company and built a good product, but they unfortunately went under and they got bought out by another big name. And yeah, it's hard to work your way back up to that status that you once had.
Yes, I was involved I met some great people, but, there's a condominium complex in Austin off of, oh, it's not South Lamar, South Congress.
Mhm.
It's called Bel Air. And those developers that went in and developed that, they shut down that LLC and opened a new one, but they had, people that the city came in and condemned a lot of the units in there because, it was an open loft concept situation, and, they were missing bolts in some of the units
Oh,
of,
the
on the
supports.
main
Mhm.
steel structure.
And isn't
And it
this right behind Amy's Ice Cream on South Congress? Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I know friends that live there.
too,
They
because I
call
know a lot, because I was actually and I was in there on the financing end, doing a lot of the loans for them, and it was frustrating. But, you were talking about, the builders, and it just popped in my head. I like a Perry Homes.
Oh,
Perry Homes does a pretty I've done a lot of, going through, and Perry Homes I really like, and I don't hate a Coventry or Chestmar. And, it used to be amazing. Not a big fan of Meritage, not my big thing, but, I will pull into a Perry Homes all day long.
I believe Mary is a Texas builder, correct?
I believe so,
And so that
and
goes into their customer service and a lot of the reputation. I mean, I'm not a Texan, I'm still California, I'm wearing a hat, but I know a lot of Texan people are prideful of their work and a lot of their heritage. So they're not going to give that any shortcomings or any reasons to, befall their bar where they hold their standards at, because that's a family reputation. That's a legacy of, the Perry builds. Like, who started it? What do they want to leave their children, their grandchildren? They don't want to leave anything, rotten. So that's a huge thing. And I admire that about Texas a lot. It's just a lot of the people here are very prideful with themselves, and I get it. We all should be, right? And that's one thing you want to do is take pride in your work, craftsmanship.
Absolutely, because I've been out Austin and Leander on Perry homes and, all the way down to, San Antonio, very much that, Cowson Ranch, and I'm trying to think of the other, Perry I can't even remember the other ones in San Antonio, but there's a there's all I'm seeing is everything's Callison. But the situation really jumps into the fact that they have a good quality control. And, I'm not trying to sit here and sponsor one because that was a bad aspect, but I was trying to
There,
think of some of the builders that I really, really like.
there are a lot of builders like that get into the quality control and they have their, each phase where they do their inspections and they make sure things are done adequately. And if not above beyond what's adequate, because this is something that should be standing around for hundreds of years, right? I love walking into old homes that are historical and the fact that they're still standing today. That is just amazing, right? I want to have a house that I probably won't be here then, but I would like to know that my great great grandchildren are living it because it's still standing to today. And that's something you want to find in a builder is and take into consideration is how is their craftsmanship? How are they done with quality control, like Robin said? Knowing that they're a Texan builder, they know the dirt, they know the layout of the land. They're not going to just, cut a corner to just pour a foundation on it just because they want to make a buck. No, they're going to do their research because they know it and they're going to do it correctly.
Yeah, I went with you to show one of those historic homes in San Antonio in Olson Park, and, that beautiful house, they kept giving and giving because of what was it, 3 stories plus a basement that was totally converted,
Yep.
and, you were just in hog heaven, I
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you.
Those homes are just amazing. And it was before I got sick, I think it was a week before, where I had a wedding and it was at a historic home in downtown Austin. I can't give you the name of the venue, but it's a historic property. And the house, I mean, just seeing the floors, the way it's taken care of, the hardwood, the stained glass windows, the built-in cabinets slash bookcases, the grandfather clock that's still standing from who knows when. I think the house was aged 1892. So it's like, wow, that kind of house is really old and it's still standing to today. So that's the kind of stuff you want to see is the craftsmanship. And lead. There's so many people today on the planet that we have to create things at a fast pace to be able to, supply the demand. And I love just seeing this. I remember when I grew up, you can take a piece of 2x4 and you can count the ring. You couldn't count the rings on the slice of 2x4 when I was young because the wood was so old. Now, if you take a 2x4 from Home Depot and you look at it, you can count the rings. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And they have to do that because they got to supply that demand. And unfortunately, with times today, I remember the statistics, I think, is back in the 70s, I believe you had 21 minutes to get out of your house if it was on fire. Now the statistic is down to 7 minutes. So that's how fast that things are just going to, burst in flames with all our technology, electronics, and just the type of construction that we have. So those are things to keep an eye out on a lot. So
You also touched on something that is really a concern and something you have to think about before you jump into even selecting a builder is your design flexibility. Because if you are like our friend Carrie, she likes something more modern and more sleek, or you might like something that's more of a craftsman style that has a lot of detail and architecture built in, or you might like, a right home
yeah,
for instance, but you really have to identify the type of construction you're looking for and what builder does it good.
yeah, exactly. Because each
Because
one of them
not
has
every builder, I mean, what's the big, the the Texas farmhouse is really popular right now, and there's some builders that do it really well and some that miss the mark really, and you're like, "You're calling this a farmhouse? Really? What interpretation of the words did you come up with?" And, it does matter.
Yeah, each one of them, like I just said, they sometimes you're gonna find a builder that just wants to make a buck, and those trends go a long way because they know they sell, so they're gonna jump on that bandwagon and try to get that, that money, and being able to say you sell a farmhouse and just by painting it black and white on the outside does not mean it's a farmhouse. Like, I'm sorry.
I
But yeah, there's a lot more that goes into a farmhouse or a barn home, like having the specific trim, the doors inside. Are they sliding? Are they barn doors, right? What's the glass look like? Are there insets built in the cabinets? There's a lot of things that go into a farm home, right? But painting it white and black on the outside is not considered a farm home. That's just
Or adding shiplap,
exactly.
trying to get away from shiplap here in Texas, a bleak
What do you call it? What do you call it? You call it shitlap?
shiplap,
Those are
and
the
that
builders who are just, you trying to jump on that bandwagon. They're gonna make it look like it to attract these consumers to try to just sell, right? And unfortunately, that's a sales tactic.
and yeah, and it's not that it's a horrible style, it's just like they make it prominent and if you have shiplap in your home, I'm not telling you to get rid of it, I'm just saying, just try not to maximize it everywhere.
Yeah.
And in your bathroom, so I'll be no. So if we were to Nelson, I got a little bit of a, exercise. From 5 to 10, what are can we come up with some really good considerations if we break it back down to 5 or 10 that we've talked about? I'm gonna just try and aim for 5. I mean, we've talked about schools.
That's
We've
all.
talked about where you're gonna be in 5 years.
Yeah. I guess a big consideration would always be timing. Timing is a number one. So
Timing.
that would be the thing. My other thing is the location geographically. Are you doing work? Are you doing from home? Are you commuting? What's the land? Is it clay? Are you limestone? What's it like? Because that's going to alter a lot of that kind of that build. Another one that what I would say is look at the reviews online. That speaks a lot because you don't want to be building with someone who is got a bad reputation, but they build nice homes just by your look of it, right? But
Right.
consider other people's experiences because that won't lie.
That's a good one.
A fourth one that I could say is, man, this one's gonna be, I guess,
We're actually at 6. We've already done
oh,
6.
let's keep going. So also the craftsmanship, that's a big thing because you can have a good reputable builder that builds beautiful homes and you read the reviews, but you don't know where these reviews are from per se, right? They can be someone in am I saying this right? Plano, Texas. It can be a builder from there and you're finding one here in Austin. It's the same builder, but the people who constructed the home there are a completely different company that's constructing it here. So
We see
take a
that every day from
yeah,
San Antonio to Austin.
yeah, Santa, just going along the 281, you're going to see a lot of different, the same builder, the name, but the communities change based where you go because there's different people who are working and constructing your home. So, and to tell you the truth, even in that community, there's 6, 8, 10 different teams who are doing the framework and doing the kitchen or the bathrooms, the flooring, the painting. There's all different teams that are going around. So the build is going to change dramatically. So the craftsmanship is one of
Absolutely.
the hugest things that I would say. That would,
Craftsmanship. Yeah.
yeah. There's those are the like a good top, and my main one is always going to be go check out the reviews because that is the biggest thing. People they have experience, and there's look at the you can get a hold of someone that's in Connecticut, right? Who's probably had a build there, and they can give you their honest opinion, and you can just make your own discernment based off those reviews that you've read.
I've had clients actually stop and talk to people in a new community and say, I just want to verify you had Bella Vista that built this house or MI or, Perry. And they like, yeah. And they're like, do you like your home? Would you do it? And what in the community is an issue? And, I don't suggest going up and down the streets, knocking on people's doors and running a survey. But if you see somebody out and they look approachable, stopping and asking them, hey, we're looking in this neighborhood.
Yeah,
Would you mind telling us your experience?
yeah, that's
Because
huge.
your agent is gonna be able to tell you a lot, hopefully. I mean, Nelson and I are gonna be able to tell you a lot, but at the same time, the man on the street in the neighborhood who's dealt with that, supervisor for that community and that builder's rep is really gonna really jump in and give you a lot of insight.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a good point, great point because they've already dealt with the process, lending company, the sales rep. whatever, the superintendent, the builders, right? The warranty afterwards, they've dealt with it. So it's a good point to go communicate with it. And chances are get to know them before, because if you do plan on moving in there, buying there, get yourself in their Facebook group, because chances are they do have a group, and it's good to read their comments and what's going on in the neighborhood to see if maybe it's something you do want to move to, right? They might have a picnic. What's the HOA like? Do they throw a food truck every Friday, right? The first of every month? Do they have stuff, events like that? It's good to know that kind of information, because that might be one of the points that point you towards that direction of that community, or maybe another one. So,
Absolutely. Oh, this has been awesome. I'm really kinda we got a lot covered, and, I mean, we went over what we normally talk, but hey,
excellent.
this is kind of a super, catch there, so I'm kinda loving it.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thanks everybody for tuning in.
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye, Robbie.
Bye.